My name is Gia Irlando. I spent 6.5 years at the Office of the Independent Monitor in Denver and can speak a little bit about that. But I am on the Board of Directors for the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. It is the only association that actually has members in every form of oversight model across the nation, which exceeds like 250 different agencies and over 1,000 members. The first thing I want to say about, well, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I actually came into police accountability work at a very young age. My mom was on one of the first police commissions that had any real power. She had also been involved in the civil rights movement and had been arrested and was actually the victim of police misconduct when I was a very young child. And it just kept coming to me, right? I have kids, Latino kids, that have had problems with the officers. I've actually had many friends that have been involved, justice system involved, and have been targeted. It keeps coming to me. And so when the Office of the Independent Monitor actually opened that job and I applied for it, I got to do my passion work, right? I really got to spend some time really getting into the meat of what really good civilian oversight looks like, and how jurisdictions like Colorado Springs can actually institute it. I know this is just a community conversation about what you're going to do next, and I don't come in as an expert for your community. So what I can do is actually bring you some really important principles of good civilian oversight. There is a report coming out. Am I the only one hearing the hum?
No, you're not. I can hear you.
Okay, let me get back a little bit. Is that better? Yeah. So there is a report coming out that NACOL developed over 3 years with a grant from the COPS office of the Department of Justice. This report is not out yet, but I have actually been privy to it. The entire board of directors has been able to actually look at it and edit it and make sure that it's something that we wanted to actually publish. It should be out by the end of March. And in that report, it actually talks about a lot of these different models. It gives some framework for language that everybody can kind of understand about what good civilian oversight, independent civilian oversight looks like. And I think the most important thing that you all can take from this is that there are 13 principles by which we consider effective independent oversight practice to be if they're trying to work towards all 13 principles. I'm not going to name all 13 of them here. This report will be available very soon. But I want to talk about some of them because as you work through, what you're looking for and what suits your community, and the students actually said it best, right? It's a best fit for community. It's not necessarily best practice. You can't take one model and put it anywhere and have it be best practice. And this is why there's not 2 oversight agencies in the entire country that have all of the same authority, all of the same independence, all of the same tenets of independent oversight. And it's because you have to mold it to your community. And the ones that I'm going to bring to you actually pretty much encompass all 13 of them. But I just want to start with independence, right? Independence is actually independence from political, independence from social aspects. It's independence from all of the things that could actually keep that agency from saying what it needs to say about the department that it's overseeing, whether it's good, whether it's bad. It's independence to be able to report. It's independence to be able to hire who they need to and make their presence strong when it comes to discipline and when it comes to policy and when it comes to outreach. So independence is incredibly important. Authority is different. Authority is actually what they're mandated to do, and as you think through what you're looking for in an independent civilian oversight agency or an independent oversight body, you're really looking at making sure that the authority that they're given from either an ordinance or a charter right off the bat actually gives them a number of tenets, right? You want to make sure that they have unfettered access to not only the department and to records and to the executives and internal affairs, but you want to actually make sure that they have access to everything that they need to be able to do their mandate, to finish their mandate, complete their mandate. Full cooperation from not only the department but also from the city is incredibly important. You can institute, there's places around the country that have actually gone out and gotten petitions signed and put independent oversight on, into the city charter, and they're still struggling with what they have access to, what actually falls within their authority. You have to make sure that when you're actually looking through this, that you're thinking about, all the data that's necessary, right? If data actually leads you to, pattern and practice stuff that says that training is faltering, right? That you actually are able to do, recommendations around what officers need to be trained on, all of that good stuff. So full cooperation and access is just necessary for any kind of independent civilian oversight. Adequate funding. So Fort Worth, you all know Tatiana Jefferson and the Fort Worth struggle. Fort Worth said yes to oversight. They absolutely said yes, and they already have hired somebody, but they did not actually give them authority, independence from the city manager, from the mayor, from city council, and they didn't give them a budget. So the person that they're actually hiring is going to fight for all of those things, but they don't right now have the ability to actually get in there and do the work that they're asked to do, right? So it's incredibly important that you look at adequate funding as part of whatever you actually bring in. And that is dependent on a model, and there's lots of things out there. I don't suggest you start from scratch. There's plenty of models out there to look at what is good for your community. They have to have a public reporting and a policy of patterns and practice analysis unit. Denver has been doing that for many years, and we put out annual reports and semi-annual reports that actually speak to the number of complaints, the kinds of complaints that would actually come in. So all of that stuff comes out of our policy unit. That is necessary for any good, effective model, right? And then, of course, that leads to the community piece, right? Because when community can actually see all of that transparency, when they can ask questions, when they know the kind of data that's actually being collected and then pushed out to the community, there's a lot more trust in the process and in the system. As part of community outreach, we really want to look at not only the fact that you all are here and you all care about this issue, we're really talking about sustained support for the entity that you actually put into usage, right? Because you can look at Denver, you can look at any number of jurisdictions across the country that actually have fairly good, effective oversight models, but actually they found ways to actually not, to have to go back for more authority or more clarity on all of their legislation, right? So Denver, even in the past 5 years, has gone 3 times. They went to the voters once to become part of the charter, and they went to city council twice for amendments to I'm starting to lose it. Gone back for amendments to the ordinance, right? And that was because there's loopholes here, and access to records were questionable. And I'm not talking about Denver necessarily. Oakland's done this, New Orleans has done this, Hawaii has done this. There's a need for updating all of those authority, the authoritative legislation on a regular basis. And then I would just have all of you actually do some research on procedural justice. Procedural justice is one of the principles, adhering to it, and it basically says if anybody, community members or law enforcement, actually understands and feels that processes are fair, that they're open, they're transparent, that everybody has all of the information, then they actually follow the law and they follow the rules, right? So procedural justice is inherent to any good model, and all of you should be familiar with the tenets of procedural justice. I would also suggest that you actually read President Obama's 21st Century Policing Task Force report. It's on the DOJ's website, and it has a lot of the community policing tenets that you all are looking for in Colorado Springs, at least from what I can gather, just being 70 miles away. It really goes through what, the kind of reporting mechanisms, the kind of access to information, the kind of complaint process that should exist, and the fact that civilian oversight, right, is part of public safety. It increases public safety. Should be part of the safety system in any city that's experiencing the kind of problems that Colorado Springs is.